before. This was the era before modest or whisper was invented, and I had made a stain on my skirt. And the chalk. And the chalk was to be used to camouflage the stain. I was so embarrassed, but deeply touched by his gesture. Let's give a hand for the cowboy who had a deep understanding of his students. Let's give a hand. In our biology class under Mr. Severino Fernando, a boy classmate once prayed for God to touch the heart of our teacher so he will not give a quiz. After his prayer, Mr. Fernando said, "Okay class, in answer to the prayer of that person, I will not give you a quiz." So we all cheered loudly. The next day, another classmate tried the same trick. But he said, you know, sometimes God's answer to our prayer is no. So he gave us a quiz. One day, Mr. Fernando was asking for examples of birds for 20 points each. All the bird names I knew were being ticked off one after the other. And I made up my mind that when my turn came, I would say, "Bilit ti lakay, bilit ti balay." Since he said that Ilocano terms were acceptable. But my example was stolen from me at the last minute. And when it was my turn, I got so rattled that I said, "Bilit ti lakay." My classmates burst out laughing, but Mr. Fernando was so mad with me, he gave me minus 20 points. Let's give a round of applause for Mr. Fernando. There are many other teachers who touched my life, but time does not permit me to tell everything. So let me move on. Without a doubt, NLAC is God's school. But dedicated men and women leaders expended blood, sweat, and tears in order for the school to come into its present existence. Dedicated men and women who were larger than life, who were willing to spend and be spent in the service of the school. Dedicated men and women whose main agenda was to serve and not to rule. Servant leaders who mingled freely and openly with their constituents. There were no little boys with big egos, masquerading as leaders, suffering from bouts of severe paranoia, who would run to hide behind the skirts of Mamma Mia because they are afraid of their own shadows. We had leaders who used their authority to help people, to build future leaders for God's word. God forbid that there will be bigots who think they know better than everyone else, who would use their authority to put people down and attempt to use the outcome as a mere rubber stamp of approval for their personal preferences. We had leaders who were humble, who were quick to forgive those who had wronged them, quick to own their mistakes, and apologize when apology was in order. God forbid that we will ever see leaders whose hearts are filled to overflowing with hatred and anger because of imaginary wrongs done them. Leaders who are adamant in justifying the wrong they had done and whose vocabulary does not include the basic word sorry, a word taught in kindergarten. We had leaders who prioritized people over paperwork. Leaders who would get up from their lunch in the middle of the day or from their beds in the middle of the night to attend to a member of the community who needed help. Pastor Alsaibar was one such leader. I vividly remember that one time when he took us, his students, to visit the wake of someone in Kauringan who had died. We raised our eyebrows and exchanged questioning glances, for those people were not members of our church. And this was a time when we thought that Jews were not supposed to have any dealings with Gentiles. But Pastor Alsaber simply said, these people are our neighbors. Let's give another round of applause for Pastor Bangheli Alsaber, the people's principal. We had leaders who refused to sit in the comfort of their air-conditioned offices all day. They would get out from the cubicles and literally roll up their sleeves in order to get the work done. Pastor Demetrio Echanova was one such leader. When he was principal of NLA, he hiked up the mountains of Tirad Pass to campaign for students. And he trekked the hills of Mount Palina to establish a water system for the school from the Ngaab Spring. Thanks to his efforts, the Ngaab Spring was the sole source of water supply for the campus for many, many years. Let's give a round of applause for Pastor Demetrio Echanova, the hands-on principal. During the late 60s, when I was a neophyte teacher, Pastor Victor Cabansag, our principal, would invite the community to come to the school on Sundays to plant gardens. Teachers, students, and teachers alike, we were on fire.